Let's go ahead and play the Clergy Response Team clip. Now remember, before this became national news, we got the secret documents from pastors who've been recruited by FEMA. We posted the secret documents with FEMA phone numbers. Train your flocks to turn their guns in. Train your flocks to go to FEMA camps. Train your flocks to take forced inoculations. People didn't believe us, just like they didn't believe the MIAC report. Then, suddenly, local news began reporting it, but like it was a good thing. Now, listen, will martial law ever be a reality? And the preachers are there, being paid by the government, faith-based initiative, now continuing under Obama, to tell their flocks to do what they're told by the authorities, and the government's biggest threat is the American people. That's a quote. So, this is specifically the pastors getting ready for us to go to FEMA camps. And there's thousands of pieces of evidence like this, and Glenn Beck's saying it doesn't exist. Here it is.
Law ever become a reality in America? Some fear any nuclear, biological, or chemical attack on U.S. territory might trigger just that. And as KSLA News 12's Jeff Farrell discovered, the clergy would help the government with potentially their biggest problem, us.
From my cold, dead hands.
Charlton Heston's famous declaration captures a truly American value, the overarching desire to protect our freedoms. But gun confiscation is exactly what happened during the state of emergency following Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans. U.S. troops also arrived, something far easier to do even now thanks to last year's elimination of the 1878 Posse Comitatus Act. That forbid U.S. troops from policing on American soil. If martial law were enacted here at home, like depicted in the movie The Siege, easing public fears and quelling dissent would be critical. And that's exactly what the Clergy Response Team, as it's called, helped accomplish in New Orleans.
Jeff, the primary thing that we say to anybody is let's cooperate and get this thing over with, and then we'll settle the differences once the crisis is over.
Such clergy response teams would walk a tightrope between the needs of the government versus the wishes of the public.
In a lot of cases, these clergy would already be known in the neighborhoods in which they're helping to defuse that situation.
For the clergy, one of the biggest tools that they will have in helping calm the public down or obey the law is the Bible itself, specifically Romans 13.
Because the government is established by the Lord, you know, and that's what we believe in the Christian faith. That's what's stated in the Scripture.
Civil rights advocates believe the amount of public cooperation may depend largely on how long they expect a suspension of their rights might last.
The minister's work is also important, and also he should be trained, perhaps by the Federation, as to our ideals and the goal that we hope to reach. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population, and the minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members.
In 1939, Margaret Sanger wrote that in a letter to fellow eugenicist Clarence Gamble regarding the American Birth Control League's Negro Project. Gamble was an heir to the Procter & Gamble fortune.
Sanger's letter makes it clear that the eugenics movement understood they would need to neutralize the opposition they might get from the church. They also knew that this would be especially crucial within the African American community. Their strategy was to manipulate church leadership into selling the illusion that support for eugenics was not inconsistent with the Christian faith. To do this, they would often recruit pastors to be frontmen for eugenics policies and provide them with prepackaged sermons on eugenics. They also held contests in which awards would be given to the ministers who came up with the best pro-eugenics sermons on their own. This approach proved so effective that an almost identical strategy would be adopted by the American abortion lobby.
In 1975, Jesse Jackson called for the ban of abortion through a constitutional amendment. And in an interview in Jet magazine, he referred to abortion as genocide. But Jesse Jackson, on the other hand, wanted to become president. And the Democratic Party at that time had sold out completely to Planned Parenthood and the eugenics crowd. And Jesse Jackson went along to get along. And don't ever think that he was the only one. The unfortunate thing we face, whether we're talking about individuals or organizations, there's never been a shortage of black leaders who are willing to sell us down the river if it's enough money and political power in it for them.
Thousands of anti-communist Russians were in West Germany after the war. One early CIA strategy was to use them to disrupt Stalin's empire. William Sloane Coffin is a Congregationalist minister and peace activist. Between 1950 and 1953, he trained refugees in Germany for the CIA.
Well, it did seem to be doing the work of the Lord to try to help patriotic, courageous young Russians overthrow a cruel, terrible dictator. If I had been a Russian at that age, I would have been one of them. So it wasn't hard for me to believe in a resistance movement that would overthrow a person who had killed so many millions of Russians, in the same way that some very dedicated German Christians, including the great theologian Bonhoeffer, plotted against the life of Hitler.
Italy was the target of the first campaign of political action ever mounted by the CIA. Alcide de Gasperi led the Christian Democrats. They were the party of the Roman Catholic Church, and they were strongly assisted by the CIA.
His followers are supported by millions of letters from Italian Americans and hundreds of shiploads of American food.
The letters mentioned in that newsreel were part of a propaganda campaign organized by the agency among Italian-American communities in Brooklyn and other cities. The drive to mobilize opinion at home to help win an election in Italy was part of the CIA's first experiment in political action. John LaCourte was recruited to organize the letter-writing campaign.
I used to go out in the Italian community in Brooklyn in particular, and explain to them. And I became known as the spokesman for Stop the Communists in Italy. And with the help of the church in Brooklyn, the clergy explained to them the danger. And the clergy, every Sunday, used to talk to the parishioners that the John LaCourte program deserve consideration.
Our Lady of Mount Carmel, pray for us. San Paulino, pray for us. Have a great day.
And we started this letter-writing campaign. And before we knew, the thing was gaining momentum. One man tells another man to write another letter. So that's the reason we got almost 1 million letters within a week or so. It was a miracle.
Not entirely a miracle. Italian-American newspapers carried ready-made letters and telegrams which their readers just had to cut out and send to Italy.
The CIA made it possible for John LaCourte to achieve what he did. He made contacts and undermined the communists and spread the message and convinced the Italian people that this was a serious issue. It was not politics. Was a question of surviving people to remain close to the United States.
Long enough, Pastor. What do you think of this latest thing about how to tattle and spy on everyone?
Well, one of the biggest things I noticed when I brought it up was that, first of all, it's in cartoon form, so that goes right straight to the kids. All this is expected. I mean, I tell you what, since I've talked to you, I told you last time I talked to you, it's been a while, that I was going to start a Black Robe Brigade here in Ohio. Now, whether you believe it or not, out of all the pastors that I've talked to in my area, I cannot get one single one on board. And so I just started talking to the people. I figured, well, you know what? If the shepherd isn't going to take care of his own sheep, then I'll start telling his sheep what the heck's going on.
Well, the World Council of Churches, UN-run devils. If all they care about is their Cadillac and their house. But look, I'll expand. It says this is a private company that then I guess feeds this, probably sells this data, we don't know, to the government. It was developed by Many True LLC, created by George Parsons and Winston O'Brien, and it leverages modern technology to address the timeless threats to democracy and freedom.
Okay, well, there's something else. They are sending out from the Hartford Institute for Religious Research, they have sent out a 2010 national survey of churches, and it's about 6 pages long. They send you the envelope to send it back in, but their questions run along these lines here. Like, do they listen to what you say? They ask those type of questions. You gotta answer never, seldom, sometimes, often, always. They want to know if you're a close-knit family. That's what they're asking now. And most of these, from what I have found out, are not being sent to your mainline denomination churches. They are being sent to your non-denominational
No, it's
churches.
intel spying. They admit they're spying on the churches.
Well, just a week and a half ago, I had someone get a hold of me that goes to a local church, and lo and behold, the pastor is standing right up there in front of the group on Sunday morning and telling them the Romans 13, just like it was supposed to, we were told to do.
And that's
by
because
Homeland Security.
they get the faith-based money.
Yeah, they got the faith-based money, and matter of fact, not only did they get that, they got a lump sum to even start the church. So these people got a hold of
The feds are starting the churches, not just infiltrating. My parents go to a nice Methodist church. I'd probably been there 50 times, my kids more. And the Methodist church then sent the one preacher, that's how it works, to another church. And suddenly it was, cut your carbon. The illegal aliens must be legalized. We're going to raise money for Bill and Melinda Gates. And my kids aren't going back to that church. And you know, and the sad thing is my mom starts, helping with the church, volunteering, doing Sunday school. She has friends there. And my parents don't like it, but they've got to get out of it. You got to get, it's so sick to sit there and to have stuff like this going on. It's at Baptist, it's at Methodist, it's at Catholic. People sent me the Catholic church stuff where they tell them, turn your guns in, they're of the devil. One was a Chicago parish I saw that with. The churches have been taken over by and large. And folks, if your church is promoting Bill and Melinda Gates eugenics, but telling you it's helping little black children, or they're telling you legalize the illegals, or that guns are evil, or carbon footprint garbage, get out of it. Get out of it. And take people with you. Form real churches. Form real churches. Form real churches.